You're going to keep your spine in the same line and sink your chest toward the floor with your elbows straight so that your shoulder blades close together behind you, and then pull your chest up so that your shoulder blades are spread apart. So first off, chest sinking down, feel that gathering together of your shoulder blades behind you, and then draw your chest, your breastbone up away from the floor and let your shoulder blades separate. Just as we do a couple more, keep checking in with your spine. Try to make sure that you're not going into rounding and arching, which is often quite tempting with this. So again, I'm trying to maintain, let's say, a relatively neutral line of my spine doing that. And then finish up in what feels like a kind of middle position. Now, I'm just going to take this black jumper off because I think it probably conceals a little bit what I'm doing. So now I'm aiming to keep my upper body still, so you shouldn't see any movement of my hips backwards and forwards as I slide my shoulders up towards my ears and then slide them back towards my waist. So again, of course, this is your shoulder blades moving on the back of your ribs and hopefully feeling this kind of quite free glide. And check in with your elbows, keep them as straight as you can so that all the movement occurs at your wrists and again, your shoulder blades moving up and down the back of your ribs. Take the weight off your hands for a second, just give yourself a little bit of a break. And then you can have a look. So then we're trying to put all of that together to something like this. So you can join in whenever you're ready. I'll dictate a direction first of all. If it doesn't work for you, you can use the other direction, but just in case it's helpful to have some guidance. So if we start lifting your chest up away from the floor, so your shoulder blades are spreading apart, and then glide your shoulders up towards your ears, and then keeping your elbows locked, sink your chest down toward the floor, and then glide your shoulder blades back towards your waist, and then lift your chest up again. So hopefully that's one circle or one sort of rectangle. So shoulder blades glide towards your ears, your chest sinks toward the floor. Your shoulder blades glide down your back towards your waist, and you lift your chest up. And once more like that. Again, be strict with your elbows. So the thing with your elbows bending, it may well be that actually your body tricks you into thinking that you're doing the shoulder movement. Do, again, give yourself a little bit of a break for your wrist if that's feeling tough. And then we'll try going the other way, and hopefully I can remember what's the other way. So let's start this time with your chest sinking down in between your arms. Slide your shoulders forwards towards your ears. Pull your chest up away from the floor to spread your shoulder blades apart, and then glide them down your back towards your waist and sink. Shoulder blades glide forwards to your ears. Pull your chest up, and so on. So try one or two more without me giving you all of the directions. Great, good, okay. And again, take the weight off your wrists for a moment. Now, we're going to do one more thing in that vein in a second. And you may remember last time doing this sort of maximum reach up of your hands to really lift your shoulders up, and then working on also pulling down. Now, the pulling down is the sort of crucial piece of doing the pull-up. And when you're hanging from a bar, you are actually fixing your arms and then moving your spine relative to your arms, which is a little bit easier perhaps when you're hanging, but we're going to try to test the wiring, let's say, or your picture of what your shoulder blades are up to by trying to do this on all fours. So have a look for a second and let's hope I can pull this off. Previously, I wasn't moving my hips, so my upper body was sort of fixed in this plane. But now I'm going to see if I can keep my arms fixed and actually move my upper body back and forth. You can maybe tell that my spine really wants to join in. And actually, it's quite difficult for me to keep my arms completely still. But the idea remains the same, that instead of my shoulder blades moving, I'm actually moving my ribs and my spine relative to my shoulder blades. At the risk of sounding like a lunatic, I would consider this to be really quite complex or sort of high level movement skill, if you can work out how to do this. Okay, now we're going to do one more, yet another variation, the final variation around this theme, which is going to be, let's see, what's the best position? Figure it out in a moment. So I'm going to move one shoulder blade towards my ear and the other one down my back, and then reverse their position. So if I do that from behind, it would be something like that while I'm on all fours. And if that's going okay, then we can try and make it into opposing circles. So one goes forwards, the other one goes back, and then you sink your chest toward the floor, and then you reverse. So forward one goes back, back one goes forward, and then you lift your chest up. It sort of reminds me of a steam engine somehow, or something like that, you know, a locomotive, this way of moving your shoulders. And if you've done that a few times, that looks fantastic, actually. Then let's see if you can reverse the direction to really get that picture of your shoulder blades becoming more and more detailed. Magnificent. Okay, so then let's take the weight off your hands and just do a few wrist circles. You don't need to be as strict as we were previously. Last week was kind of very strict about holding onto your wrist, but for now, just think of it as really loosening up rather than trying to test the limits of your capacity. Because we're going to do one more thing, loading your wrists and actually coming back to working on the strength in your forearm. So I'm going to change the camera angle a little bit. Now, if you have any sort of history of wrist injury, or there's anything to make you uneasy about loading your wrists a lot, then just approach this with plenty of care. And I'm going to keep most of my weight on this hand. So to begin with, I'm on the fist of my right hand, this one, and it's not directly underneath my shoulder, but a little bit more towards the middle. And then what I'm going to do is to fold up my wrist to bring the back of my hand onto the floor. And then you can pull your shoulder up away from the floor to come back onto your knuckles, up onto your fist again. So again, the down movement is where you need to be sort of most aware of not just letting yourself, you know, collapse there. So I'm trying to keep my elbow straight. And again, it's this fold of my finger joints and my wrist to bring the back of my hand to the floor. And then pull your shoulder up away from the floor to lift you back up again. If it's feeling really tough, so Jeannie, maybe have your knees a bit wider and try bringing the hand that you're working even closer to the other hand, so that the further away it is from my support hand, the harder it is. The closer, I think, the easier it will feel, or the more manageable it will feel. And then, of course, you know, I've tried to approach this in a very sort of cautious way. If you feel quite strong with this, then you can make it more testing, if you wish. You know, so you can start to put a little bit more weight into that hand. So your forearm muscles have to do a bit more. Having said all of that, let's try changing sides. And I can also test myself by trying to go slowly back down to the floor, where because these are not movements of my wrist that I typically train, the very natural thing is for me to do quite a sort of sharp and sudden drop of my wrist down. And again, I don't want to be doing that. That's the kind of thing that might start to feel a bit stressful. So I'm going to try to slowly release my wrist back into the floor and then pop back up again. So try maybe one or two more on that side.